there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss out! After punch, baby, come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will be crushed.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane.
This is mass madness, you maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
Yeah, welcome to the Deep Share, and I'm here with Mrs. Rambler and Buffalo Rambler from False Reality Check. This is awesome. How you guys doing?
Fine. Doing awesome.
Great.
How are you, Andrew?
Very good, very good. And we've been acquainted through the Union of the Unwanted, our lovely little guest appearances. That's pretty nice.
That's right. Yeah, that's a fun show for sure.
Yeah.
And to just be there with all those great minds.
Oh, man.
So intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're all so nice.
I forgot what your tweet said after, but it's something about like getting to practice with the varsity squad or
something like that.
That was perfect. I felt like we were being invited to the adult table and we were at the table. It was like, oh, we're making that leap. All right.
It feels good to be part of that welcoming community, doesn't it?
It really does.
It does for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your show hasn't been going on for too long, right? I feel like you've been going on since March, maybe, or
like February. I think I officially started, but I really didn't advertise much. I just kind of like was slowly putting things out there.
Yeah.
And just I just kind of let it slowly leak out. But yeah, it's been going for a little while. It's fun. You know, it's a nice little I don't know, it keeps me sane, I guess. Being able to talk to other people that feel the same way without scaring the shit out of everybody.
Oh boy. I think that's been the biggest benefit of this whole thing is being able to talk to people and not feel like you're crazy because they think similarly to you, but everybody has something that they differ on, you know, but we're all pretty welcoming and we're not judgmental about that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Like for me, I'm open to hearing anything.
Oh,
you know, you got the facts. I want to see them, even if it's stuff I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Like I want to hear everything.
For sure.
Opposed to like, fortunately, people I work with, it gets tiring day after day, you know, just trying to put on this front.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You know?
Yeah. I work in healthcare. And so most of the people I work with are vaccinated. I won't say where I work, but I work like back office. I don't actually work with patients. I'm not patient facing or anything like that. And I work from home. So it's not like I got to deal with people other than the people that I work with. But just the propaganda that comes out of their mouth, it's like, did you hear that on CNN last night? Or like, where are you getting this? So like literally hearing at work, oh, I only listen to Sanjay Gupta. That's all I would listen to. I'm like, there are people out there like this that like only listen to one source of something. This is crazy. I don't know what's going on with everyone.
It's like a demented form of idealism, you know?
Yeah, it really is. It's become like the new orthodoxy in a way.
You know what comes to mind to me sometimes is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that movie. Because you suddenly, because there's times, and it's not just me, I'm sure plenty of people have been like just kind of not feeling like their closest people in their lives are who they've always been, you know? It's just this alienating feeling in a way, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's been I'm sure for you a very eye-opening year. Just seeing, I guess, who your true friends are and who's willing to stick up for their beliefs and who's not all talk. And unfortunately, a lot of people around me are all talk.
Yep.
And it's been hard learning that and coming to that realization. But It's all right. We
Yeah.
got our little community here.
Yeah.
That keeps me sane.
Yeah,
I think it keeps growing.
We're constantly, it does. It keeps growing. We're constantly surrounded by people who are, everything will be just fine. Everything's going to go back to normal. I wonder if like they're going to say that as we're being marched off to the box cars, like, oh, I think this is a nice box car. Don't worry, this is fine.
There's actually a meme like that. There's a meme out there that's like showing, German soldiers ushering people into boxcars. And it's just like, oh God, and it's about COVID.
Oh man.
It's just I don't know. I feel like I want to look at it more positively, like we're not going to let any of that happen. You know what I mean? I hope that our power is going to snowball eventually, but who knows? I don't know. It's getting pretty hairy out there.
I think it is.
I think as our group grows and more people realize what we're doing and that, hey, it's okay to think freely. It's okay to think for yourself. Getting that collectiveness together, it will overpower. Good always overpowers evil. It's just how long is it going to take to get to that point? I don't know.
Yeah. This is like the most, I think we can all kind of admit we're almost like in an information war right now. I don't know if it's an information world war, you would consider it that. It seems like it, because it seems like everybody's intelligence agency is poisoning their own population or trying to figure out ways to control everybody. But I think that when we actually step back and look, there's goodness all around us, and we're part of a revolution that's within this war. We're just a decentralized revolution, which is why we're not talking to each other the way like a commander would talk to its battalion.
Right.
We're just all, pushing information out there, and that's all it takes. So like you said, Andrew, with the snowballing effect, like we didn't have a podcast that long ago. You didn't have a podcast that long ago. See where it's going, see how many people we're talking to. There's more and more of us in numbers. It's just, we're not listening to the CNNs, MSNBCs, and Fox News. We're listening to things like this. So I think that this is the revolution. We're part of it. We're doing what needs to happen. I don't know. That's my white pill spiel.
I love it. I love it. And I try to agree with it. And then of course the dark side creeps in and goes, it sounds too perfect, right? It sounds too easy. Like what if they're because like my take on it, let me know what you guys think of this. To me, it's like, sure, YouTube gets censored and it's obviously the most popular place for, video footage to come out, but anything, including all of our stuff and, people much more, sought after than us, it all gets out there and you can find it. There's alternative, we're part of alternative media now. And it's like, it's available. So it's like they're not necessarily stopping the truth from getting out there, but maybe they're delaying it until they are able to handle it enough or shape it the right way or something. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't know. That's an interesting take. I mean, it's hard for me to trust anything that they put out, because they can manipulate anything they want in front of us, especially the little subliminal programming. What is it?
Predictive programming.
There you go. Thank you. Predictive programming that they do on us. I'm always cautious. Like, what does Sam Tripoli say? Karate stance on everything.
Right.
Exactly. I'm like karate stance with everything. So the stuff that they do put out there, and if they want everyone to focus on it, I take a step back and I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't be focusing on that, because you know what that does, puts that intention out there. And I don't know. I don't even know if that made sense.
No,
well,
that's kind of how I approach things.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good question. I feel like we are, I don't know. That's hard to answer.
That's the creepy one, isn't it?
That's hard to answer.
Like, are we being herded? Like,
yeah.
So because like we're all allowed to talk. We're all allowed to say this about the big bad them. Yeah. And it gets out there on our alternative, maybe not YouTube, but you can still download the apps that we are available on all
Yeah.
over Google Play. So it's like, I keep trying to ask people this question, and my listeners have heard me ask this question a couple times, but it's something I can't get my head around. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the angle there with us, being allowed to do what we want and say what we want? You just may have to go to an alternative source to find it. You know what I mean?
Do you think that perhaps that there are some of us in this community who are co-opted or what would you call it?
Like taint agents.
Like taint agents.
So that's great. I love that.
That's Monica Perez.
That's Monica Perez's term. That is not mine. She's
That's
called
great.
taint agent.
It's a great term.
I don't think it has to be that way. Just the same way as when a normal person, whatever that means, would say to us crazy people with tinfoil hats on, like, oh, is everybody in? How would they ever get everybody in on the conspiracy theory? I don't think that has to be the case either. So like, I don't think there needs to be any co-opting when it's almost like it seems to me that for some reason, this information needs to get out there from their perspective for some reason. And I don't know if you guys have heard of like revelation of the method.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an angle, right? But then again, that like us knowing about revelation of the method also got out there. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe, am I giving them too much power by assuming they would even be able to control all the information? That's probably giving them a little too much credence, maybe.
I think so. I don't think there's a way to control every bit of it. I mean, look at what we're saying right now. They're not going to, I mean, I'm not being controlled. I'm not being paid to say what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'm taking us down a weird, useless rabbit hole.
I do feel like there are like quote unquote taint agents within the conspiracy community or the alternative media community. I feel like there are some of those, particularly without naming anybody off the bat, but like people who drive that left-right narrative, like you got to pick the right or you got to pick the left, but they subscribe to, alternate history or alternate theories. I think that people who push that constantly might be compromised people, but I don't know if they're compromised by, greed or corporate interests, or if it's a governmental type, thing like a COINTELPRO kind of program. That's just my thinking, but all I can speak for is me. I know I'm not.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
Hey.
I am not an NPC.
We'd have a better background if we were. So
yeah, I mean, I think I'm picking up on some disinfo going on in like the UFO community right now, big time.
Yeah.
And it's weird how like we have a guy that's like, I don't know, do you guys follow like the UFO stuff that's going on when like the characters and the players?
Kind
of like the general what's going on.
We listened to your last episode with the 4 different guys.
Oh yeah, cool. Your last roundtable that you did.
That was a crazy one.
You guys
we got pretty deep.
Yeah. You guys started talking about Greer, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, here we go.
What do you guys feel about Greer and his work?
Man, I think he's motivated by money for sure, and he does have that God complex. If you really want to help people, then why is your app? What is it? How much is his app?
Like $10. $10. I don't
know.
I think his retreats are a lot more than that too.
Oh yeah. And his retreats are crazy expensive too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's something special that you want to share with people. It's kind of like, then share it. Don't be greedy about it. If this is something that's going to save mankind, don't be greedy.
just for $9.99.
Yeah.
I can easily save mankind.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I don't know. I'm sure he puts a lot of stuff out there that's true. But at the same time, I can't trust that guy.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb here and just be honest and say, I don't believe space is real. So I don't think aliens are real. So I think whatever this guy's communicating with is they're entities. There's entities out there that don't look like you and I, they don't take this form. I don't know. I've never seen aliens, but this guy claims to have. And there's some photos in his Unacknowledged documentary that clearly show some like weird stuff they've seen out in the desert doing their CE5 protocol. we have family that have downloaded the app and used it and claim to have experienced things. I do think that he maybe started off with good intentions and very, especially about like the whole meditation thing and kind of inner peace and bringing that about and a clear head. And that's what helped him contact these entities or whatever. But eventually money does corrupt, and maybe money corrupted him. I don't know. I didn't buy the app. I don't plan on buying the app. I'm just cool with listening to other people's stories about it. That's all.
I'm so curious about the app. I mean, it is pretty expensive, but I mean, I feel like I've heard stories like Greer reports from that app and stuff. I've heard that from psychedelic stories. I've heard that from like, you know, the old ancient world tells these kinds of stories throughout religion, you know, these kinds of sightings and stuff like that. So I don't know, what do you guys make of like the possibility that it's, I mean, you mentioned that you don't believe in space. So right there, I have confidence that we can go as deep as I want to go. So, because I'm very skeptical about a lot of things they tell us. And it's not just them, it's that my own eyes show me and have shown me because of my psychedelic experiences. Yeah. So, I mean, let's go there for a minute.
For sure.
Let's explore that area for a minute.
For sure.
Elaborate for me. What's your take? Because there's a million takes on that start with that. I don't believe in space.
I'm not gonna go and say I'm a flat earther, but I think if you do check out the whole like optics and how optics work and how your eyes work and how far you're supposed to be allowed to see theoretically, we live on some sort of plane existence. I'm not sure. You know, I know the flat earth people think that Antarctica like surrounds us and we're in some sort of like dish or something that carries the water and all the continents are in the middle. Maybe it's like that. Maybe it's like a cylinder. I don't know. I have no idea. I never explored the world other than being in an airplane. And when I'm in an airplane, it looks pretty fucking flat to me. Like I don't see the curvature of the earth, and I'm pretty high up. I'm as high up as I've ever been. I've been on mountains, but not as high as I've been on an airplane, and it looks flat. I don't think space is real because NASA lies. NASA was started by the remnants of a Nazi regime that we basically drafted them into our government to start this whole space fakery. And they have basically propagandized to us to all think that space is real, when every photo you watch of space, of Earth, of the moon, they will tell you it is a composite. NASA will say themselves, it is a composite. Even Earth photos are composites of thousands of photos allegedly taken from space. Well, there's no evidence to me that space is real. I've never been to space, and they can just tell me that it exists and show me some photos and video with fuckery in it, and I have no idea if it's real or not. There's no way for me to independently verify it. Also, the moon and the sun appear the same size in the sky, and that's kind of weird, right? But the sun is supposed to be like 100 million miles away or some.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense. Back when I was a kid, it was less. I think it was like 93 million miles away.
I think it's like 96 million, right? Something like that. Yeah,
they've changed perfectly
it around. On the dot. Yeah,
how
they have
changed it around so much.
And how do you even measure something?
And how do you measure something like that? Like,
and they tell you the science has gotten better and better and better, but that's flimsy. That's so flimsy. Yeah, I mean, that's where I am. I don't believe that they're telling us the truth. I just don't like when anyone comes to specific conclusions, like you said, like flat earth. Yeah, there's a lot of compelling evidence to point in that specific direction sometimes, but then it's so refuted. It's so deeply, it's there's something going on there, but maybe it's something else. Who knows? Like a toroidal field of some kind, where the condensed energy is in the middle, perhaps. And man, I don't know.
It's definitely not what we've been told.
No,
we can agree on that.
Yeah. Space is clearly misdescribed, obviously.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can't personally just verify it, and we have to take authorities, words on the matter, I think it goes beyond like a childish, like, well, I wanna and I can't, it just speaks to a spiritual part of me. Like it's something so important, or, at least, inherent to this experience, yet we can't know it. And we just have to believe. It's such like almost like a forced faith, because you got to picture something, right?
Yeah, it's scientism. It's the new religion. The new religion is scientism, and the priests are people like Fauci and Bill Gates, even though he doesn't have a medical degree or scientific degree and doesn't even build computers. He has other people do it for him. So yeah, I mean, we're meant to rely on authority kind of blindly, and we're told who to follow. So we don't even get to choose who to follow for the most part. And doing things like this, obviously, if you're listening to this episode, you're probably a person who thinks for themselves and at least seeks that information. But how many of us out there know people that think that this information is all fake and what they see on the TV is all real? I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Some of it's so convincing. Like I was talking to someone about this, how certain people like that in my life are so good at refuting everything you say. And if you're not the best at it, like it's this stuff, it's a spider web and it's a rabbit hole for a reason. It's so hard to just blurt out at someone, wish I could just, touch someone on the forehead. Like, there you go.
Like in Paul, when the alien touched you. And like,
right. Yes. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I want that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, if you just knew everything I knew. Here, let me just transfer all this shit.
Or the gun in Hitchhiker's Guide in the movie. The emotion, like, you understand completely what the other person is like feeling or something.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty wild.
Oh man. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on stars?
Yeah. What do you think stars are?
Oh man. See, everything's been coming into question lately. Go ahead.
Have you seen that video of stars up close and they're all just giving these geometric patterns?
Absolutely.
It's just crazy.
I've seen it through people's like phone cameras, and I've done it on my phone camera, and it looks exactly like those examples, which is weird. If I haven't looked into it enough to know if some of those are being claimed to be like high powered scopes or just like one of these, or is it like you got your DSLR camera hooked up like Crow 777 does with the moon, and you're filming these stars? Is that when they're seeing these like crazy geometric energy patterns? Could you answer that for me? Because I don't know personally if it's someone with a phone or if it's a high powered scope.
If you're watching it from like one of those major flat earther guys, they're usually using that Nikon P900 on a 7-inch or probably maybe even a 9-inch telescope. So that's usually what Crow 777 uses to shoot. Right. So I mean, that's pretty clear. But if you saw it with your cell phone, pretty clearly.
Yeah.
And
but so that's the thing. The only reason why I try to debunk everything, of course, you got to first, the reason why I thought that was like, wow, it looks exactly the same on my stupid little cell phone as it does on these supposed like really high power. But maybe that's okay, because the difference between my cell phone camera and their high powered scope, even if we're going to try to debunk it, maybe that distance is still so vastly too far away for either one of them. Because I know that that's something along the lines of the excuse or the reason, right? From mainstream, it would be that the light is so far away that you're not going to see it the way, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea.
It's not like you would the sun, because the sun's supposed to be a star, right?
Right.
So that's
why. Of course, that one's far away too.
Allegedly.
Well, so the closest one to us is like 3.6 light years away, I think. And that's like Proxima Centauri or the Alpha Centauri system or something like that. So they're telling us that, I don't know, how far away is that compared to 96,000 or 96 million miles? I really don't know the math, but it doesn't seem.
a huge amount different, right? Because that's like, it's like light years. Light years are like the sun's only 8 light minutes away.
Right.
So
So I
Light-
mean,
light
wouldn't that
minutes.
wouldn't that explain why the sun is bigger than like those tiny little stars that you can't see? I mean, hey,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to debunk my entire childhood here. It's just weird, you know?
I think that's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah,
We're
man.
debunking everything we've been brainwashed with.
Ugh, it's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, that's like it's the name of our podcast,
Yeah.
False Reality Check. Trying to put a check on this false reality that we've been presented.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
and space is just one of the weird things. So space isn't real,
To me, it isn't.
and you think aliens are interdimensional
No,
beings?
I think there's been a confusion in terms of aliens. I think a lot of people think aliens means otherworldly or from like other planets. And I think that aliens could be anything alien to us. So, you know, back in the day, they thought there were like elves and like fairies and shit. That could be aliens. For the spirits or demons could be considered aliens. That could be what aliens are. I have no idea. Maybe the way that like UFOs work, it seems to work off of intelligence, right? Like sometimes when you see a UFO, they react to you. I mean, I know we could probably get deep into this, Andrew, but I have seen a UFO a couple of times in my life. Maybe you have. You
I have. Or
did it react with you a little?
maybe I haven't really thought about it that way, but if I tell you the tale, maybe I'll reconsider it while I'm telling it. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
Maybe that's how it works. Maybe we're manifesting these things in the sky. Maybe they are other dimensional entities like angels or demons or spirits or ghouls, or I don't know, that are reaching out to us through some sort of like veil, you know, and we're seeing it. I don't know.
However we perceive these things just depends on the individual. And maybe there's only just so many experiences of that nature or ways to interpret it. Maybe there's just like, this is the weird stuff where like you get into like the Eastern mystic stuff where it all reduces down to one. And in Buddhism, the self is also thrown out because there is no individuality and everything is everything else. I am the cup, I am the mic, you know, that whole thing. And I've experienced that like on some deep stuff. So in that respect, I mean, sure, it could be a coincidence that I experienced that through my cameras and in my head, and tons of other people wrote it down like thousands of years ago or whatever. But to me, I think that's too coincidental, you know, like I feel like there's something there to that where I kind of just lost my train of thought. Were we talking about aliens, interdimensional aliens?
Yeah, I think the reason why I say it's we kind of help manifest these things in our world and we see them is because like in the 1800s when they saw UFOs, they look like houses. They look like airships or something to those people. They didn't look
Chariots.
like or fairies. They didn't look like how the lights in the sky or the orbs that we see nowadays. I think the reason why we see those things as orbs and lights is because we've been bombarded with, you know, 40 years of pop culture aliens to tell us what they think aliens are. And so then we put that in our mind and we manifest it out. So when we see it, we see something that fulfills our predictive programming. That's what it is.
I like that because so it kind of helped me remember where I was going, because it goes back to this idea of the other. And it feels like I'm always running into a middleman that like the powers that be kind of put in the way of everything good. No matter what the topic is, they will lay it out. It's like a mimicry that we get carried off to. And it almost feels like, you know, mainstream religion does that. You know, it takes the power away from the individual and it gives it to this, you know, being that we should be worshiping or whatever, or striving to be like. I'm wondering about the aliens in the same way, where, like you're saying about the manifestation, like what if it is like co-created by us somehow and the rest of it's just from the ether, the aether, or whatever, and it's just an extension of us. It's back to that oneness, you know what I mean? Like if in all reality that we are skewing because of programming, and maybe it's easier to survive in this time frame or whatever, maybe it's a way to just reduce things down so it's simpler to live like this. But when it really comes down to it, we're all just everything, we're all just one. So that external experience of like an orb or a spaceship or some kind of visitation could be just an extension of that like collective imagination, perhaps.
I never liked that collective unconscious. Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, very loosely, not by any like specific definition, but just in a more of a as above, so below kind of way, or a scale and variance sort of way, in the sense that like, you know, the individual is as the whole, you know, it's like we can relate what the human species is going through the same way we could see it in an individual. You know what I mean? It's almost like we're entering the rough, like teenage self-discovery period of our lives, where all these different ideologies are bashing into one another. And, you know, I always tend to do that. It's just like the individual to the whole seems so important to, and when you look at it that way, it's kind of obvious why we should be protecting Earth and all that, all the good hippie stuff, you know?
Yeah. No, I get it. I definitely agree. I have a sense there is a oneness to everything. I've seen that and experienced that through, you know, tripping and psychedelics as well. And every single trip that's been reinforced along with an additional message or something that I'm receiving that's going to help me out at that moment. But that's been the overarching thing that I see every time, and I experience it every time. I don't know if that means that we, you know, as part of this oneness, there's some sort of like memory there that we all tap into, or some sort of like hive mind that we all tap into, where we're experiencing all this kind of weird phenomena that occurs around us, or like things like synchronicities that occur that maybe you experience, and everything's kind of just falling into place for certain things. That I have limited study on like the Eastern philosophies. I did study Buddhism for like 2 years during high school. I went to temple and I meditated. I did all that kind of stuff. The thing that I don't like about being like pegged to one philosophy kind of versus others are, you know, is that elimination of self. I think that we should eliminate ourself, like our ego, to kind of grow, to help us grow and realize certain things about us. But I think that we shouldn't negate the individual completely. And I think that that's kind of what makes us special in a way and unique. And to kind of go along with what I was saying earlier about the whole, I don't know about Earth, if it's flat or not, but I do kind of feel like that's what the message we're kind of constantly being told is, you're not special, but we are. All of us are. We're very unique, and all of us are, you know, in our own little weird way, special. And I not to be like, oh, you're a special snowflake or anything like that. I don't, you know, I don't want to go down that route.
No, they demonized the real meaning by doing the snowflake thing. They laid that mimicry out, you know?
Exactly. And
I totally hear you.
We are unique. We are special. And everyone has something about them that is uniquely that soul, that individual, that spirit, you know? And so while I agree, I think we should kind of meld minds and do that whole oneness thing. I don't want to see people lose that. And I think the whole point of this existence is balancing both of those things, isn't it? At least to me.
I totally agree. Yeah, man, definitely. Yeah, I would say that you shouldn't lose the individuality, because it's kind of what we're all here to experience. You know, I like to think that, you know, the Egyptian Book of the Dead's pretty, like, I think all these different traditions, and whatever you think in your head and you think, and I think we all have little puzzle pieces that fit. We could write our own religions, and eventually they'd probably turn out to be pretty close to that story that everyone seems to be writing underneath it all.
Yeah.
And it's that underlying idea that like it's this one consciousness, and it needs to it's like experiencing itself to learn. It's like we're experiencing God's self-discovery almost, or the universe's spiritual awakening or something like that.
Yeah. So would you agree? I forgot, there's an Indian philosopher, maybe he was a yogi, who said something like, all of us are manifestations of God, and God loved us so much that he wanted to experience everything. So that's why he became us. Would you agree with something like that?
Yeah, because that again echoes all the older traditions, whether it be Hindu or Buddhist, or Buddhist takes a pretty extreme approach, but like the idea, Egyptians say it in their Book of the Dead, it's I am one, and now I see myself too, and the multiplication starts. It's like this, it's like our cells, but there can still be there's like a personality in there somehow. There's some sort of, I guess you could say, I think intelligence is the wrong word, and I think we need to throw that word away almost in this sense, at least. It's because it feels too machine. That's why I don't like the idea of simulation theory, because you immediately picture people at a computer, and all the theorists that I hear, they're talking about, maybe this is, the race that built all of our monuments. They're so far advanced now, they're running it. It's like, you're thinking of more humans doing more human shit. Really? Like, it doesn't add up to me. Like it's either on accident because of our conditioning, or it's a convenient co-opting of some kind. You know what I mean? Yeah. It feels like it's ruining that good message that is in there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm all over the place.
No,
these topics are wild.
Man, I love that. So we're all one collective consciousness, and we individually were an extension of that. Yeah. Right.
It's similar to have you listened to the near death experience episode of Union of the Unwanted? Yeah. Some of the things that they experience, like that I forgot what her name is, but the lady that told her story about how she died, and her, she remembers like somebody said a joke or something in the room while she was dead, and she laughed, but she wasn't in her body, and it was a dark joke, and she's like, oh, I still retain my like dark sense of comedy.
Okay.
And she wasn't in her body. So to me, it's like, yeah, something goes on, something keeps living, but
a part of this identity sticks with that consciousness. But so then what about the idea of multiple lives and past lives?
I believe in that.
Those are different individuals. Would you argue that's a different individual? If it's your same consciousness, but obviously you're a different person, right? You don't come back the same person.
I think I'm spitballing just from my own direct experiences with these things. Cause I didn't almost die, but the experiences talked about in near-death experiences, like the ones there's so many that sound very similar. And I experienced a lot of that with a lot of psychedelics. And, I'm not saying it's the same. That seems much more vivid and much more like life-changing specifically, but I do remember kind of feeling the same kind of vibes as those kinds of stories, where like there's this people have referred to them as costumes and stuff like that we wear in life and stuff like that, the ego. And it's kind of like a growth that you become over time in this physical place, but inside you're still that like original untouched tabula rasa, like the clean slate. And I think our individual perspectives just immediately color that, but it's the same origin. It's an experience so universal and so basic to us all, to consciousness itself, that it takes this physical existence to color it from one direction or the other, so that we can I mean, that's the only way to really understand something, right? To look at it from multiple angles. But it's the same. I've heard it described with a couple of my trippy buddies of mine. We used to say that's like, it's the thing, but you can't name it. Life or existence or consciousness or God or whatever. It's this thing that you can't name, but you can endlessly personify, and you can endlessly come up with metaphors for, and you can endlessly do similes. It's like this, it's like that, but you can never name it. And it's when you find out it's like you and that thing are not different, that's like where the revelation comes out, I guess. I don't know where I got that. That just channeled in, I think.
Man, I like that. I like that.
Oh man.
But yeah, so there's that.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So space isn't real.
Space isn't real, definitely.
Because this whole damn experience is kind of suspect.
Yeah,
it's almost like there's a conspiracy being run outside of this time.
Yeah, I feel like we're in that Twilight Zone episode where the aliens are fucking with that town, and everybody is like, "What's going on?" And they start blaming each other and going and hurting each other because the aliens are. It's like somebody's messing with us, but nobody's messing with us. They're all just trying to vow for power and control. That's what it seems like. It's like a giant Game of Thrones that none of us wanted to be a part of.
Yeah. Like I have to. Yeah. I feel like we're in like the octagon. We're like, what? No, we didn't. No, I wanted to just sit in a field of grass.
Yeah,
I didn't do nothing. You know what? Let me ask you guys about this. Not that I'm kind of change gears a little bit, but like, do you guys love technology and are sad that it's evil? It's the only way I can put it.
That was the perfect way to ask that question.
That is so good.
Oh my God.
Yeah, technology is a blessing and a curse. I do like technology because we can do shit like this.
Yes.
You're across the US and we can just talk to each other.
Yeah.
I know it's not in person. I prefer in person, but hey, this is great also.
Yeah.
In terms of like, for me, I'm a huge like map, Google Earth. I love looking at Google Earth, GPS. I'm all for that. It's
like part of your job too.
Yeah, but for me, I love just going on Google Earth and looking at aerials. I don't know.
Oh, yes, it's pretty
so technology that way. I love that. But social media, that's like the biggest evil that's come out of our generation. We're in a cool spot because we knew what it was like before all of this.
Yeah.
We knew what it was like to have a landline and not have to carry a freaking cell phone everywhere. I miss those days.
Yeah, and you couldn't talk late at night because your parents would get mad at you if you were on the phone because they could see the light would come on their phone and they'd get upset and they'd be like, "Hey, get off the phone." Yeah, I miss those days. Those were nice days.
All that control, I used to rebel against it, and now it's like, well, maybe it was for good reason, And not only is that part of just like getting older and becoming a parent myself, but it's also like just like kind of a spiritual awareness of that. Like, it's not necessarily control, it's guidance. Because I'm learning as a parent that like kids want boundaries. They'll freak out and scream and have tantrums, but it's because they need those boundaries to be built for them. So I wonder about that in relation to I'm not going to say controllers, but the predator class, as some people call them. Like, what if we're misinterpreting, or maybe this is just like the older sibling gone wild and just lying to all of us younger kids or something? Because it does feel like in our ancient history, I don't know if you guys are interested in all like the crazy monuments and all the beautiful symbolism. It seemed like it really did stand for something unified and truly good, and then like get like flipped upside down and demented and taken over by a bunch of jerks or something. What do you think? I don't know.
Talking about the Tartaria stuff?
Not even, but we can go there. I just meant like simply like the fact that, we've been told for so long that like pentagrams are evil and what's been called evil. Yeah. All of that, and we talk about symbolism a lot on this show, and a lot of it's demonized. And even among our own community, in some ways, we're still kind of we fall for it sometimes, you know, and we think things are satanic when it's like, whoa, whoa, that you can't lump that in because that's actually not a satanic symbol. So yeah, it's weird, you know, and I wonder how that relates.
It's weird, you know, astrology, we've been told, well, that's nonsense, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
or tarot, was it
Tarot.
Tarot
Yeah.
readings, like it's all nonsense. Don't believe that. It's evil. Like,
Yeah.
growing up, I grew up in Christian household, so I was baptized Christian. I went to church probably up until high school. I stopped going, but all that stuff was like evil. Don't even mess with that. Don't even look at it. And now thinking back on that, I'm like, maybe that's actually the right route to go. I mean, maybe astrology, there is something to it. I'm willing to explore it now more than ever. You know, like the evil, the stuff we were told is evil maybe isn't, but the good stuff, like Disney.
The stuff that we were told to go to was probably the most evil stuff. To, I don't know, suck our souls out of us. I don't know. I grew up Mormon until I was about maybe 10 or 11. Then we stopped going to church. And just same as you, all that kind of stuff, astrology, anything having to do with like weird symbology or anything that's evil, that's from the devil, not allowed, that's not good. And it wasn't until like high school that I started to like learn about like the occult or occult symbols and where these symbols actually come from. Like, where did they take their symbols from and things like that, that I realized like, oh, all this shit's recycled. Like everybody recycles these things. Every culture uses these types of symbols all over the place. Like the swastika, you know, that's been throughout multiple cultures. Then that was like the original thing of that was the swirl. Then now they perverted that and the spiral, and that's supposed to be like a pedo symbol now.
Right. Yeah. They're trying to say that like the oldest, most revered symbol in existence for us, pretty much, that spiral is some evil pedophiles. Like, oh yeah, that's their symbol. They use that everywhere. It's like, really?
Yeah.
I'm taking it back then.
Yeah.
We can't have nice things.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely it's something that, you know, I'm sure we're still dealing with it to this day. Like even in this whole trying to learn about stuff, you know, some of that like creeping, oh, this might be bad for you, is still in your head, where you see a certain symbol and it might put you off a little bit from learning something. But I don't know, I think we just need to get over that and realize we've kind of been programmed to think that these certain things are evil. What somebody does with them could be evil or it could be good. It really depends on the person.
Force.
It's the will behind that.
Exactly.
It's all manifestation, all that stuff.
I agree.
I like to call that, you know, like the Force from Star Wars. You know, you can go one way or the other with it, but
exactly,
you know, maybe caution, but don't run from it, because it's like it leads to the greatest mysteries of all. You know, it's weird. It takes a certain mind, I guess, to want to go into the dark corners and do that shadow work, you know, before you even know it is shadow work, you know.
Is that shadow work? Is that just going into the deepness of the darkness of you? Because everybody has a dark side. Everybody has a a side that you would vilify as the bad side or whatever.
Right. Yeah. One of the poles in yourself. I think they use the shadow work term in multiple disciplines too. I don't know. I think it represents the subconscious, you know, things like that are constantly going on and being collected and analyzed in whatever this experience is, but it's always underneath the surface. And I think when you go into that shadow work, it's scary on purpose, because the ego has such a hold over you, because the ego doesn't want anything to do with that, because it has to relinquish power and admit that it doesn't really exist. And that's just another facet of you, you know. And I relate the ego, and it's not just me, to the demiurge from the Gnostic traditions, if you're familiar with that, where the demiurge was kind of the action part of God, whereas like God itself is everything, right?
Mhm.
So if it's everything, then there is no experience, there's no time, there's no space, it's just pregnant
is.
with possibility. It's
Yeah.
that darkness, it's that void, that shadow, that dark place is where it all actually comes from, you know. But the action itself is like, is this demiurge, this ego that can actually make it happen. But I think something to do with this physical existence, this time and space thing, makes everything very chaotic and terrifying. And I think the ego builds and builds and builds these walls of security because it forgets who it is or something. I don't know.
So let me ask you this then, because we're kind of diving a little deep into this ego. What exactly do you think the consciousness is? Do you believe it's like a vibration, a frequency, or is it something that you're born with? Is it located in an organ? Is it a material? Is it metaphysical? What is it to you? What is the consciousness?
I think consciousness is, it's like the fish swimming in water. Like it doesn't recognize the water. Like consciousness is literally everything. And I think consciousness is a very technical 19th, 20, you know, whatever 20th century kind of term for God. And I think it's kind of the same thing. And it's, if we recognized it like that, it would be so obvious that it was real, you know, because we're using small mouth noises at each other right now. And Terrence McKenna used to like to say that, you know, slapping meat slices together and vibrating noises at each other. And we're using telepathy to interpret what another says. Yeah. And luckily, if you're in a bar and you use your meat flaps and blah, you know, the guy behind the counter, somehow you get what you want most of the time. You know what I mean? So that's proof in the pudding right there that consciousness is, it's a field to me. I think it's funny because the hard problem of consciousness that they all talk about, Sam Harris loves to get into it and act all super scientific about it. And you can't answer it. Like they can't answer the questions thereafter. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's almost absurd to try because they're part of it. They're doing it. They're the thing. They can't name the thing. They can tell you what it's like, but you can't name the damn thing. So that's what so that's where I went with that.
No, I agree.
What do you guys think consciousness is?
I don't know. I agree. I think consciousness is everywhere. It's everything. It's in the plants, it's in the rocks. It can be in inanimate objects. It's whatever this reality is. We're all a part of it. That is consciousness. And it's hard to explain. It's like trying to explain a mushroom trip to someone. Like it's just,
yes,
you can't explain it. You can't.
You try,
but you know it's there. And
desperately try, and you fail.
Yeah, it's not the same.
No.
To me, the mushroom trip kind of reminds me of like a microcosm of the greater mystery. It's almost like a little, almost like you get to go to a museum and go, oh yeah, this is the mystery. Check it out real quick. Yeah. Like it's like a little model of the greater mystery almost, you know?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's true.
It's so weird. Like drugs were just demonized my whole like childhood, you know, don't do drugs. And for me, like doing that first mushroom trip was pretty nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah.
I will say, because I thought the cops were going to come to the door and just like knock it down. Like, what are you doing? You know?
Did you have a bad trip, do you think?
Oh no, it was great. Yeah, I didn't have a bad trip at all.
I have had bad trips.
Me too.
Yeah, he's had some bad ones.
Oh boy.
I've yet to have a bad one. They've all been very eye-opening and give me exactly what I need in that moment. But yeah, that first one for sure, complete 180. Yeah. Like it really opened my eyes.
Yeah, I cried after my first one, straight up. Yeah. I'll admit that, definitely. Yeah. I sat on the couch like, I can't believe I never realized.
Yeah.
I looked back. I looked back at my life beforehand as like a two-dimensional model almost. It was hard because I loved my childhood and I love growing up and all of it's there for a reason and it's perfect the way everything happened. But it was like up until that wake up point with the psychedelics, it was like all of that was automatic because it needed to get me to that point. It felt very vivid in that direction. Very creepy.
Right.
Everything was deja vu. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that on psychedelics, where it almost like deja vu. You start saying it, you're like, oh my god, that's more deja vu. Oh whoa, it's all whoa, wait a minute, it's all deja vu. Wait, what is this? Like, why is this all so familiar? Like, that's where my brain went there one time on it. I don't know about if you ever experienced anything like that.
I think on
LSD
when we did LSD.
Yeah, my head was like that. Everything is deja vu.
That was it was weird.
Do you think the brain is just like perturbed and tricking you to use a sensation that you normally wouldn't use, like deja vu, even though we don't understand it very much? The layman explanation is that your eyes are seeing something faster than your brain or something like that. But let's throw that out for a minute and just, focus on the weird. So like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't really know what's happening. I know people will say, well, you're on a drug, so you're tripping. The drug's making you trip.
Right,
yeah. But it really, that shows that you haven't really investigated what these drugs do.
It allows you to tap into something that we can't see.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like whatever we see when we're tripping is going on.
That's real.
24/7. Like that's all around us the whole time. And we're able to tap into it when we take mushrooms or LSD.
Yeah. They, it's funny. They want you to, they want to demonize these things, but even in scientific tests, their fMRIs, when they put somebody on a mushroom trip in an fMRI, that doesn't show, it shows like their brain is off. Now, if your brain is off, how is the drug making you trip if your brain is off? Technically, your default mode network shuts off, right? That's the thing that kind of stops you from feeling like everything's too much. If that's off, what are we tapping into? Like, clearly there's something out there, there's something around us that we're just not seeing. And maybe this is giving us that real glimpse. Finally.
Yeah, just to clarify for everybody listening, the default mode that you're talking about there is basically like your everyday survival skills, the way you handle the world, the way you keep yourself together. Like that is completely there's no lights in that area of the brain at all under these fMRIs when you're on psychedelics. It's all it's like in the hypothalamus. There's some activity going on.
There's some like cross wiring going on. So like
neural networks
taste like are reconnecting so you can taste color and see sound. It's very strange. Yeah.
And I wonder what those mechanisms are really there for, like what's the point of that? Because we know that our brain already has receptors to receive these chemicals. So it's like our brain was ready to rock. It was ready to party before we knew about it. But what does that say about those crosswire? I mean, it has to have some sort of structured meaning for consciousness. It's so bizarre because that experience does not help us evolutionarily or, in a survival way. That experience completely disrupts our ability to carry on. I couldn't even buy a pack of cigarettes. I got into a loop where I couldn't like finish my sentence for like, and I had to get out of line. It was a mess, it shuts that ability off or it perturbs it so much. So I wonder why nature employed that for us on this planet. I mean, unless the spiritual side of things is part of our survival, you know what I mean? Because I would say that nothing's put here to take away from that, perhaps.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
No.
That the cross wiring thing, I think, aren't there, I don't know anything, so people are going to be upset with me. I don't know anything about autism, so people don't judge me. But isn't that something that like people that are autistic have, where there's certain connections that are there that aren't there for people who aren't autistic? So
maybe
I
think so.
Maybe there is an evolutionary trait for it, because I'm not saying that like people who are autistic are along the evolutionary chain more than people who aren't. But what I'm saying is we don't know if those are going to serve us just yet. Maybe that part of the trip hasn't revealed itself yet. Maybe those connections that are growing will grow humanity over time. I mean, initially when the stoned ape theory, they thought that, was it Terrence McKenna that said that?
Yep.
Where humans being humans are only the way we are because of mushrooms. Like our four apes, ate mushrooms and eventually grew our brain size. I don't know if that's true, but maybe that serves this purpose, that growing of connections.
Yeah,
theory.
I like that. I do like, and I really liked stoned ape theory too, because it made sense to me. I mean, I didn't know stoned ape theory existed until after I took mushrooms and felt like that must be what happened. Like I came back from my first trip. I'm like, I think I found the missing link, to like my mom. And she's like, what is happening to my son? You know what I mean? Like, and then I found Terrence, and then my God, it was like, holy crap. Okay. I think he's onto something here, but maybe we're off a little bit, because I know that supposedly anthropology has proven that incorrect or whatever, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Anthropology is probably bullshit too, because like archaeology is clearly bullshit. So what else are they bullshitting us with? Anthropology is probably bullshit too. I've taken an anthropology class. Have you taken an anthropology class?
I have. Absolutely.
That professor was the professor that was the most full of shit I've ever had of any professor in my life. And I've been to public school and private school, and I've seen a lot of teachers who are full of shit. And that professor was highly full of shit. I'm just saying.
Why?
That's
because
great.
he first of all, he had a very like squeaky nasally voice, but he was a very massive guy, very tall, massive guy, but he talked like this, very wheezily, and so it's hard to understand what the hell he was saying, first of all. But then second of all, he allegedly has written like 9 books, but they were all on this particular tribe that he's like the only one studying. And I'm like, well, then you can say whatever you want, and we just have to believe you.
Yeah, that's true.
And it turns out that was the book we had to buy for the anthropology course. Isn't that funny?
Oh, that's a nice little scheme he's got rocking there. It's pretty
exactly
cool.
So he's double dipping. He's getting his salary plus he's getting book sales. So
it's genius.
I mean, I want to write a book one day too, but I'm not going to make up the shit in the book and like pretend like it's real. Not saying that's what he did, but
unless you write a fiction book, then you have to make it up.
Exactly. Yeah, nonfiction, I meant.
I know. I feel like nonfiction might be easier to write than fiction. Because I've tried to write fiction, man, and it's brutal. It's tough. I've given up so many times because I love writing too. I've always wanted to write a book. Maybe someday,
We'll get, yeah, we'll do it. You and I, we'll write.
Hell yeah, man. We'll do it. We'll name the thing. That's what we'll do.
There you go.
We'll do what Sam Harris refuses to do.
Absolutely. The hard problem.
Oh my gosh. I don't get what his problem is. Like, just
he's busy with aliens now.
Just admit. Oh, is he taking on that?
He's at least publicly, when someone like that, makes a statement on camera and puts fucking stage makeup on themselves for it, they're like, how do I jump into this now? And I really like Sam as a person. I think I don't know him, so I can't say that. Maybe he's fake.
Seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, sure. But I think he has undercut the value in religion so viciously and carelessly, and I was following him along the whole way. I was like the boy from Flight of the Navigator, just like with the machine, sailing off into atheism, because that was like, it was what made sense to me, because the religious stories on the surface were silly, and I think that's on purpose, because that way they kind of shepherd you right over to your atheist heroes and stuff like that. At least it did it for me. And I think I've escaped somewhat, but I still really like science. Again, it's like, how do you feel about science, even though it's evil, or a lot of it's evil, or some of it's evil, or some of it's super paid off and biased and, unable to be objective. It's terrible.
Do you think that viruses are real?
Oh, no. You know, I've heard a couple different perspectives on that. I've heard they are very real. I've heard that they may not be. I don't know. What's your suggestion I look into to decide whether this is real or not?
I mean, I kind of lean towards maybe terrain theory is more accurate than germ theory. But I'm not going to discount the germ theory completely, because there are things like Ebola out there that will fuck you up really bad. And that's not good. I don't think you should go like licking open wounds of people. That's probably not a good practice. You're probably
Unless you know them, I guess.
Yeah, and you really, really want to, I guess.
Everyone's consenting.
Yeah. Consenting adults, it's no problem. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm for duels. If people want to have duels with each other, go ahead, do that. Do it away from me. But I don't want. But yeah, if you want to do that. But terrain theory, I kind of lean towards it. But I'm not discounting viruses and bacteria. I mean, I know I take probiotics. Like, that's a bacteria, isn't it? Isn't that a good bacteria? I wouldn't take it unless I believed it worked. So yeah.
So
I mean,
maybe what if this whole physical existence, because even the science, at least the science that I kind of still maybe that's going nowhere, but quantum physics says that everything's like mostly vacuum and nothing ever touches itself. And that always, to me, was a really cool thing to find out. Like, it's just electromagnetism that touches. That to me was spirit. Immediately I was like, okay, this is cool. But so I don't know if I want to throw out that science and call it all programmable, programming and elitist shit. I don't know. I don't know, because it kind of relates to a lot of the religious stories too, but if this whole existence is, or at least the physical is, like, not as it seems, perhaps they don't have to make any of this stuff up. Maybe viruses can be real because our bodies are just a manifestation too. You know what I mean?
That's true. If you say it enough, I mean, they told us enough viruses are real. What if we're just manifesting them?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's all suspect, right?
Right.
I mean,
everything.
Even if they, but what about those things where they tell us like 2/3 of your body weight is like actually like bacteria and viruses? Is that true? If that's true,
Well, I mean, I've heard recent studies talking about like gut health, and is that what you're kind of leaning towards? Yeah. So like, I know that they definitely talk about that, but I feel like they're talking about it in the sense that, like, it's we've just looked at bacteria so negatively for so long, and that seems like a co-op too, doesn't it? Like, maybe we've been kind of,
it's probably all a part of us. Like everything, everything that's a part of you is probably supposed to be a part of you. And
absolutely.
It's just a way for them to, I don't know, divide us even against ourselves. Oh, there's a virus in us and we have to protect ourselves from ourselves, and then there's autoimmune disorders. Like, I know people that have autoimmune disorders, and that's literally your body allegedly attacking yourself. Like, your body, your immune system is attacking yourself. So I don't know how real that is. I don't have an autoimmune disorder, but I'm sure that feels real for people. But like you said, Andrew, maybe they are like maybe bringing that into their own existence because they were told once by one guy in a lab coat, this is what you have. And so this is what they have because that's how they feel it. And so it just must be true. I was told things, like I long ago, I had like really high blood pressure. I worked on it. I did exercise, changed my diet, and now it's gone. And I don't really deal with it. I never hear about it ever again. So, I mean, if I can get rid of something like that, I get that like autoimmune, that's genetic, or so they say. But there's people that can really manifest a healthy living in their life by just working hard at it and believing that it will work. And that's all you kind of have to do. So maybe that's just good enough. Maybe you don't really, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor though. Nobody, don't take
not
me
yet
out
anyway.
Yeah, you probably should still go to the doctor if you need to.
Until they don't let you in without a certain jab,
Oh man.
I mean, I'm not trying to be dystopian about it, but shit, it seems like if we don't start pushing back now.
Right. Yeah, it's getting pretty weird out there. In your neck of the woods, is it somewhat normal, quote unquote?
Right now, kind of, but only because so many people are vaccinated. And so they're running around in their little fake utopia, pretending everything's back to quote unquote normal. It's like, oh, that thing that we used to experience that you all thought was normal. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, you're not in that either. But I hate that the new normal because I didn't really believe in the old normal ever. You
Right.
know, I didn't fit
Yeah.
into the old normal. So, I
That's
mean,
true.
I'm hoping for something better coming along, and I think we're going to have to fight tooth and nail as we go forward to achieve that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've been like kind of down since last week, just with everything with my job and them pushing on this vaccine stuff, not making it mandatory, but just requiring us to let them know if you're vaccinated or not. And if you don't tell them, well, then we're going to assume you're not vaccinated.
And they want you to snitch on your
And
coworkers too.
yeah, and they even said we need to know this information so we can determine which rules apply to which people. And I'm just like,
That's depressing.
yeah, I see that, and no one's pushing back. You know, everyone's just taking it, and I'm gonna be the one that's pushing back. I'm probably gonna be the only one that's pushing back. Like coming to that realization that fuck, this is gonna happen now. You know, I gotta fight this shit.
Yeah.
That's been rough, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping if I stand up to it, more people will stand up. But we'll see. The universe has got my back.
Yeah. It seems like that, you know, I dealt with some kind of weird like critical race stuff at my job a while back where like an SVP told us we couldn't say the word grandfathered, even though we've all been using it because it's like a normal term in our industry. If you're grandfathering someone into a plan or, you know, something, that's just a normal term. Apparently it's racist. I wasn't aware that this term is racist, especially because most of my coworkers aren't white and they're females and they use it too. So I just figured that's just a term everybody uses. But this white, very wealthy guy decides to send us an email that we can't use this word anymore because it's racist. He talked to someone and they told him it's racist. So you know, our leadership brought it to us and basically said, so, you know, they sent this email out, so we're just going to go ahead and, you know, go along with it. And I had talked to my friend there who is Indian. He's from India. And even he was like, this is kind of bullshit, right? This doesn't make any sense. So we talked about it and he brought it up. And because he brought it up, I started saying, because I felt, well, if he's going to say it, I'm going to say it. So I was like, you know, is this guy irony impaired? Like he's a white guy telling everyone below him how to decide how to speak, you know, and most of the people below him are different ethnicities. They're not even his ethnicity. And he's supposed to be listening to them. This is how
so
he lives.
Gross.
It doesn't make any sense. So they pushed back and I haven't heard anything since then.
Good.
But if it wasn't for us pushing back, nobody would say anything. So I think that's what's going to happen with you.
I
think
so.
There are people that want to say something. They're too afraid to. So somebody has to be the first one to like take charge. Go for it.
I worked for a company that was pushing really hard when this all started. And they are a medical device company. So I was on the back end of the medical industry. And man, did they love to like mimic the hospitals. Like we had to wear scrubs on Fridays and stuff like that. The hall, everything looked like a hospital because they just wanted that image there. And they went hard. They were just a little microcosm of everything that was going on out in the larger world. It was like I was working for the CDC, even though I wasn't. You know, it's like whatever narrative was going out to the masses from on high, like my company was like, yeah, let's do it together. And it was
100%.
So we were all isolated and everything. And I left back in like right around the start of this podcast, probably not a coincidence for my sanity's sake. But I've heard from friends that still work there that have had to, now their badges have to have a certain colored sticker and everything. And they're allowed certain accesses that others aren't. And it's everywhere. It's going to happen behind the closed doors in the businesses. It's not like we've all been told about the 1940s where it's just everywhere in the streets where people had to be identified. Not yet.
It will be eventually if we don't.
If we let
back.
it. Yeah. And I think, the more of us that keep saying it, just like you're saying, this medium, we have an opportunity, right, to kind of just push that message out in a way,
For sure.
And I think in the beginning when I first started, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of felt like, am I just adding static to an over saturated genre or even an industry such as podcasting? And then I was thinking more along the lines of like grander scale. And my wife kind of was like, you got to have more of you doing it because that's what's going to sway the tide. Otherwise there's no point. So becoming a cog in the right machine rather than the one that they want you to be a part of.
Exactly. And we're not even really in a machine because it's not like we're all coordinating with each other.
No.
This is the message. We gotta, Fauci's a dumbass. Let's all put it out there. That's not even how it is. We're all doing our own thing, but collectively, I think, many rocks will equal a mountain eventually. It'll just add up. So yeah, that's it. We're doing it. We're doing the thing.
We're doing the thing.
We're doing the thing.
It's awesome. Well, it's been really awesome talking to you guys, and I hope we could do it some more. I mean, I don't know if we solved all the world's problems tonight, but I think we added more to them.
We added something.
Maybe philosophical problems we could tackle again, But yeah, why don't you tell my audience where we can find you guys?
For sure. Well, we have a fancy new website now. So
nice.
Everything, they can find us at falserealitycheck.com. All our links are there for social media. They can find how to contact us. And we do read emails. We like emails. And we will, throw that out there on the podcast every once in a while. And yeah, you got anything else?
No, everything's on our site.
Yeah, everything's on our site.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
And can you let our audience know where they can find you, Andrew?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I'm all on the controlled social media sites as the Deep Share Podcast, and you can email me too. I love hearing from you. So it's just the deepsharepodcast at gmail.com. I got to get off of Gmail, guys.
Yeah.
I gotta get the hell away from it.
Come to Proton Mail.
Yeah, until that gets taken. Right. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, it's been really great talking to you guys. This is fun.
Sure. This is great.
And,
had a great time. Thank you, Andrew, for reaching out, and we'll look forward to talking to you on like Union of the Unwanted or something else. And you're always welcome on our show whenever you want to come on.
Yeah, anytime.
Definitely. Same to you guys. All right, you guys have a great night. All right.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay?